Oh my goodness. Give it up for producer extraordinaire, Vanessa. Woo! How many of you, it's your first time here at Dude IDK Studio? Amazing. Okay, please don't let it be your last. Nick, who runs it, he's wonderful. He elevates local comedians so that we do consider moving back to Denver from Los Angeles. A real who's who on first, though, with the name of this. My parents were like, where's the show? I was like, Dude IDK. They were like, grow up. Like, where the... I was like, no, that's the title. I cannot believe you're all here. Thank you all so much for coming. Yes, I know I strong-armed 50 of you into it, but still, I can't believe it. It's amazing. I mean, I have my high school and many of your high school lit teacher here tonight. Flo Wagner, please. Oh my God. The icon. My friend Molly Smith, it's her birthday and she's spending it here with us tonight. Give it up for Molly. She also has cousins in town. They're doing a celebration of life for her grandma, so I do funerals, in case you're wondering, starting here. But the people I am most grateful are here tonight, I have to say, are my parents. Yes, please give it up for them. They have been banished to the back so that I can't see their facial expressions, but Mom and Dad, and family and friends who have supported me this whole time, I love you, thank you. I'm so sorry for what's about to happen to you tonight. Okay, who here has been to a solo show before? Just like a one-woman solo show. Okay, oh, like 7 people, all right, great. All right, well the great thing and the terrible thing about a solo show is you can really do anything you want, and for the sake of art and self-expression, you guys have to be like, yeah. You know, like, I could be painting a full face of clown makeup with nothing but Gregorian chants in the background, and you'd have to be like, she is working through it. That's her art. And you've got to clap. I'm not going to do that tonight, fortunately for you. I am going to yap at you for like an hour and 20. So if you're feeling tired, just, there's the door. Like, honestly, do what you got to do. It's totally fine. I'm going to be tired too. But this is going to be a bit of a hybrid show between comedy and storytelling. Who's been to a stand-up show before? Okay. And at a stand-up show, you laugh if something delights you, entertains you, if it's funny. And not if it's not, okay? That's how we have Tangerine Fuck in office, you know? Like, too many podcast bros were emboldened to highlight him. So truly, don't give me any laughs tonight if they're not earned. I don't want them. We shouldn't be doing it that way, right? Just if it's organic, if it's natural. And I'm starting it off by fighting with you all. Don't you like that? Okay, and then who's been to a storytelling show like The Moth? Okay, so storytelling usually indexes a little more sentimental. There will be, you know, a corporate lawyer who, after 30 years of practicing law, he decided to buy a llama farm, and that's how he learned the true meaning of Christmas. And you're like, oh, it's beautiful, you know, like, amazing. So this is gonna be a bit of a hybrid between both. So there will be moments that are a little sensitive, you know, a little tender, and then moments to laugh. And if there's a moment where you don't know what to do and you want to laugh, but you're like, is that appropriate? Is that woke? I don't know if I should. I like beg you, please laugh. Comedians, the worst case is if you just hold our misfortune in reverence, and if you pity us and feel bad for us, that's a real dark night of the soul. So if you're caught between the two, just laugh at me, please. I beg you. Okay, amazing. I think I've covered everything. I don't know. Let's see. How are you all feeling? Are you ready? Okay, all right. Okay, this first story I need to get ahead of, and I want to tell all of you that I never said I was smart, and I never thought I was smart, okay? I am the youngest child. I am the dumbest child. I don't know how to do like anything. I don't know anything, actually, because that's not my job. It's not my job to know things. It's my job to feel things and to solicit feelings in others, most commonly anger and frustration for my brother, who's here somewhere tonight. It's also my job to be a good time and be somewhat charismatic, and I work on that. So I never said I was batting 1,000 with this brain, but even so, what happened in the fall of 2019, even with that disclaimer, it was worrisome. I was working from home in Denver, Colorado. Correction, I was working from my parents' home in Denver, Colorado. I had just moved back here from the Bay, and I was a little bit lost. When I was in the Bay, I was gearing up to propose to my boyfriend at the time, and we lived together, and he dumped me over email. The subject line was, hey. Yeah, and I was like, hey, you know? So I was a little heartbroken, a little lost, a little vulnerable, and I was working for a suicide prevention at the time because you take broken people and you put them on a suicide line, right? And it was called Crisis Text Line because people texted in their crisis so they didn't have to wait on a call line. One of my former coworkers is here tonight. I am not going to say who, but I cannot wait to dish with her after. It is going to be very exciting. So my job at Crisis Text Line was to train volunteers to have these high-stakes conversations. And then occasionally I would take those conversations myself. So on this particular day, I decided to take a shift. So I'm talking to people who are in crisis, and I get a call to my cell phone, and I answer, because it's work from home. What do you think we're doing? Like literally whatever we want. And so I pick up, and somebody asks, "Is this Michelle Murphy?" I answer, "Yes." He says, "Good, we've been trying to get a hold of you. We have really important information. I'm forwarding you to a federal agent." I've never talked to the feds before, so I was like, oh my God. And so the federal agent gets on the line, and he says a curt hello. And then he explains, okay, this is gonna be really hard, because this is so stupid. So then, but I'm gonna do it. I chose to tell this story. Then he explains to me that with my Social Security card, a car has been stolen. A woman has been kidnapped and gone missing. That car crossed the Mexico-Texas border and crashed, wherein it was discovered there were 8 pounds of cocaine, as well as the blood and remains of the missing woman. I don't know about you guys, but that sounded like so intense to me. I was like, oh my God. And I had no ties to Texas at the time, except my sister lived there, but I would never murder her and get blown out on a baby's weight of cocaine. So I just started crying because this was so emotional. What a terrible thing to happen. And I'm sitting there crying, and he's like, "And are you willing to cooperate?" And I was like, I mean, I'm just a citizen, but if you need me to sign a petition, like I absolutely, I'm here for the cause. Violence against women is wrong. And he was like, "Well, no, we need you to prove your innocence." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I mean, I feel pretty innocent. I don't think I did this." And I was like, oh my God, do you guys think I did it? And he said, "Well, it's your Social Security card that was connected to the crime." Whoa, so I'm freaking out. And then I tell him I'll do whatever it takes. He says, "Good, because this is really important. We need you to exonerate yourself for a crime that you didn't commit, and we need you to help us catch the killer. So this is critical. You have to do everything we say to a T, and most importantly, you cannot tell anyone that this is happening." Okay? I had already slacked like 9 of my coworkers. I was like, I'm under federal investigation for murder. Fortunately for the feds, they were all therapists who were like, "Oh my God, girl, that sounds serious. Good luck." And I was like, thanks. My dad had even walked into the kitchen, his kitchen, mind you, and I was like, "Get out of here, Dad, this is a federal investigation." And my dad, all 6'4" of him, was like, "Oh gosh, sorry," and skips out. Do you know how much I wish it had been my mom on that fateful day in Denver, Colorado? Do you know how much I wish Susan Murphy, give it up, the woman, the parent who inspired my sheer terror of authority to begin with from day one, do you know how much I wish she had been the one to hear me say, "Get out of here, Mom. I'm under federal investigation. I have to help solve a murder." She would have slapped that phone out of my hand so fast, you know it. And the minute she got on the line and said, "Excuse me, who is this? Excuse me, who is this?" Oh, fuck. Oh my God, I would have wired that federal agent witness protection funds out of the charity of my own bank account and heart, okay? I would have prayed, "Run," through the phone to him and hoped for his safe arrival. You all know it's true. Oh my God. But I didn't get my mom on that fateful day. No, I got my dad. And for better or for worse, and in this case, definitely for worse, I've been told I am my father's daughter. So I tell the federal agent, I'm like, "Okay, I haven't told anyone. From this moment forward, I'm not gonna tell anyone." He says, "Good. Okay, that's good. Because the next thing we need you to do is we need you to secure your assets away from the Social Security bandit so that he can't get them. So in order to secure those assets, I need you to tell me all of your assets and where they're kept." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me share. I was like, it's a tough economy and I work in mental health. It's pretty underfunded, you might have heard. I did just learn about a high yield savings account, better late than never. Wish I had opened it earlier, but I have a little bit of money there, okay? Because I went to like a women in finance thing. And then I have a couple $100s saved at this one bank. It's so cute, you're gonna love it. It's called Young Ameritowns Bank. And it like teaches children financial literacy. It's like adorable. And then I was like, and then I actually got to be the manager of the radio station when we did a little stimulation, like at Young Ameritowns Bank. It's like so cute. They kind of like give everybody a role. And he's like, ma'am, shut the fuck up. He's like, enough, ma'am. I can rob you. Enough. And so I just exhausted him. And he told me to stuff it. And he's like, okay, there's enough. There's enough here. The next step for you to secure your assets, you need to go to the place to secure them. And I was like, all right. And he told me that place was a grocery store. And I was like, yeah. And, well, not just any grocery store, actually. The grocery store he told me to was the Safeway off of Cremaria Street, also known to all of us growing up as the unsafe way. Because of all the sketchy shit that happened there. And sometimes the sketchy shit was, I don't know, it was like me and Marissa and Ryan. Maybe we were like buying watermelon vodka from the liquor store next door because we were underage teen drinkers. We were monsters. The unsafe way should have been the final red flag for me. It was not even the first. I was like, all right, let's do it. So I get into my mom's car. And as I'm driving to the unsafe way, I remember thinking to myself, like, there are a few occasions where I like to put on a face and I like to lie, such as surprising a friend for their birthday or the game Mafia Werewolf. You know, it's amazing. It tears up families and relationships. But there are certain contexts where, like, I can hold my own and I can hold my composure. But I just thought to myself, oh, but when the rubber meets the road and it's real deal life or death situations like this one right now on the way to the unsafe way, I don't know if I'm cut out for like crime-chasing espionage. And friends, I have to say, if you're ever asking yourself on a Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. if the CIA would tap you for international or national espionage and ask you to be a spy, I gotta let you know they wouldn't, and they're not the ones calling, okay? This is just free advice I learned on the road from me to you. So I pull into the unsafe way parking lot, and the federal agent is like, "Are you ready for the next step?" I'm like, "You betcha." He's like, "All right. So you need to go secure those assets because what's going to happen is we want the killer to try to access your bank account so that we can expose him. But before that, you have to get your money." And I was like, totally, that all adds up for sure. And he's like, okay, so you're going to secure those assets and you're going to do that in the form of a federal confirmation card. And again, youngest child, money, how does it work? How does it move? I don't know, I don't get anything. So I was like, that sounds legitimate, like checks out. Where do I get this federal confirmation card? And he was like, well, actually, you'll know it by its more common name, a Google Play card. And I was like, I'm still with you, man. Like, totally. And then he says, Michelle, this is so important. You have to be really confident. When you go in there, if they sense that you're apprehensive, that you're purchasing this for anybody other than yourself, they are trained to sniff that out. And the cashiers at the unsafe way are trained to push a button that they have under the cash register that will then signal state troops who will swarm in, who will arrest you for a crime that you did not commit, and most importantly, will never catch the killer. So the stakes could never be higher, fam. I heard all of this and I was like, I'm ready. And so I walk into the unsafe way. My knees are weak, my palms are sweaty, but on the surface, I do look calm and ready. I go to aisle 9 and I pick out the like cutest Google Play card I can find. Aisle 9, federal confirmation card, if you're ever curious. And I walk up to the cashier woman and I slide it her way and I look at her with confidence and I say, I'd like the highest limit I can take out, please, $500. And this woman looks right into my eyes, so kind, so compassionate, and she says, do you know who you're buying this for, hun? Because earlier today, an elderly woman got scammed. It didn't even register. I was like, sucks to suck for that old lady. I'm on a secret mission. Run it. So I tell her, I do know who I'm buying it for. It's my sister, who I would never murder and do cocaine with, you know? I'm like, please. The transaction is tragically processed. I scurry back to my car, and the federal agent tells me I did good in there, and honestly, it felt really nice to hear somebody was proud of me. He's like, are you ready for the last step? I said, you betcha. And he said, okay, this next part, you're gonna find a coin. And he goes, really, any coin, doesn't matter. Nickel, quarter, whatever's laying around you. And I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, there are some laying around. He says, you're gonna take the Google Play card. There's a little, and then he goes, sorry, federal confirmation card. There's a little gray barcode on it. He said, you're gonna take that coin, whichever one you found, and you're gonna scratch it off, and you're gonna read those numbers to me to secure your assets. Okay, and so this is the one moment where I started to wonder if the US government thought that a member of the drug cartel had murdered a woman in cold blood and was trafficking cocaine into the country, might they have more resources at their disposal to solve this murder than a 29-year-old with her Google Play card in the Safeway parking lot of Denver, Colorado? However, I wasn't fully there yet, so I began to cry. Mom, lock it up, okay? I begin to cry, again, not because I fully get that I've been scammed, but because at my very essence, at my very core, is a very young, but very old, and a really small, but really big part of me that just doesn't want to get into trouble. My parents, it's cute until, you know, that was so sweet, Molly, happy birthday. The next thing I was gonna say is my parents were strict as hell growing up. Do you deny it? No. And Catholicism was strict, and so, you know, I was always just afraid of getting in trouble with an authority figure, especially a boss, especially the law. So as much as I knew something was off, I wasn't ready to have anybody be mad at me yet. So are you okay, Mom? Are you doing okay? Okay. Okay. So I tell him through muffled tears, I was like, I don't know, something seems off here. And then the federal agent yells at me. He says that I'm ruining everything, that I'm risking everything. And you know what? He has no choice but to forward me to the Attorney General. So I'm talking to the big dogs now, okay? And as the AG, direct line, him to me, is yelling at me, I start driving home. And as I'm driving home, I realize I have a tool at my disposal called the internet. And I'm still too afraid to search anything on my phone because I'm convinced I'm being surveilled legitimately. And so I'm like, okay, I have another thing that I can use. Remember my work computer? Remember my work? Remember my job helping actual people in crisis who were like, I'm gonna kill myself. And I'm like, hold that thought, I have a CIA murder to solve that I abandoned my post at. Well, I decide to park the car at my parents' house and run in and open that work computer, and I type into the Google search the exact scenario that's happening to me. And in big, bold letters, I see the word scam. You are getting scammed. This is a scam. You are the youngest child. You need to develop critical thinking skills. I tell the Attorney General with just a croak of courage that this is it, final call. I'm really not reading you the barcode. He tells me that I'm a stupid fucking bitch and hangs up. And honestly, no, you guys, he's not wrong. Like, I was like, yo, dude, that is so true. And I'm sitting there with a Google Play card in one hand, my cell phone in the other, and the computer in front of me, and I'm just in shock. I can't believe that this has happened. And part of me recognizes that, like, maybe there was a degree to which, well, good to see you. You're gonna love this part. A part of me was like, maybe, you know, I have some empathy for myself and for why I reacted this way, because I was working at a crisis line at the time. And the way that you're trained to be a crisis counselor is to believe a crisis to them is a crisis to you, right? It's not your place to say that it's not a big deal. If somebody texts in and says, my boyfriend broke up with me and I feel like the world's ending, you don't tell them, no, it's not, you're gonna be okay. So in the practice of empathy and mental health validation and professionalism, I was ready to believe anything that I heard. But I've also noticed that you guys have gotten maybe a little bit quiet, perhaps a little pensive, and maybe even sympathetic yourselves to my own situation, to which I would have to say, absolutely fucking not. There is no excuse for me thinking that I was the main character in a CIA crime, okay? Jesus. And no, I didn't get fully scammed for the $500, but yes, I did have to spend 3 painstaking weeks on the call with like Kroger, the parent company of the unsafe way, as well as my bank, and I had to explain time and time again, no, I knew I hadn't killed anyone. I did know that. I did know that. And yes, that is correct. I thought I was being recruited as a spy for the CIA to catch the killer. Oh no, and actually, no, the cashier, very nice, she warned me that exact scenario had happened earlier that exact day. So she did her job, she followed the training well. Eventually, after all of these humiliating calls, they did give me the $500 back. Yes, we can cheer for that. And my friend's older brother, who's a lawyer, he called me back to console me. He was so kind. He was like, Michelle, listen, it happens to the best of us. It really does. I don't know about that, but but I was willing to take whatever I could get. He was like, but if the US government thinks that you murdered a woman in cold blood and disembodied her, and then you were trafficking 8 pounds of cocaine into the country to sell, they're gonna come to you, like literally wherever you are, and they're gonna tell you that they think you did that. The end. The end, I hope. I hope to never share that story again. Oh my God. Okay, I did just remember there was a cue I forgot to give you guys. So I'm sharing 3 stories tonight. That was one of them. God. About my relationship to authority figures and my tension with authority figures. And because I know you're all on my side, since I know basically all of you. Well, actually, are there any strangers here tonight? Oh my God. Amazing. Okay, and are there any of you who just like saw this on Facebook or in the Denver Post? Okay, I think that's for the best, because if they walked into this family dynamic, I'd be like, oh my God, welcome to comedy, you know? So thank you for being a stranger, but a friend still told you to come to this, right? Amazing, fantastic. Okay, so you're still on my side, I assume. So the first story ended with the classic words, the end. Do you understand how that works? It's the end of the story. The next 2 stories I'm gonna share, I wanna give you the support you need to know when it's time to clap, because those are the rules at a storytelling show. So this next story, when you hear me say the phrase, absolutely dripping wet, I marched up to the nurse's station. That's when we're building towards a crescendo, if I do say so myself. So get ready to, you know what I mean? Get ready to clap, like we're building, right? And then the third and final story of the night, when I say, if it looks like a cult and it sounds like a cult, it probably is a cult. Yeah, no, say it with me when it's time, honestly. I would love that. Like, it's about community, you know what I mean? And so, okay, so do we all understand? Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna drink some water. I'm just, how are you guys doing? Is this a lot of yapping? Amazing. Did everybody find their seats? I am so glad. Whoever came in late, don't worry about it. I'm so glad you missed what you missed. It is mortifying, so it's for the best. Okay. Has anyone here ever made a decision ever in their life? It's not a setup, I promise. I don't personally. Like, I dodge that. I'm like, no, thank you. I can't make decisions. I'm terrible at it because I'm terrified of making the wrong decision. I'm a recovering Catholic, obviously, because I'm an adult person, okay? Those of you who are the same faith you were as a child, I'm sorry, but I'm very scared of you. It's like grow up, babe, read a book. Any other book than that book, like, it's all made up, it's stories. So, like, I don't know. So I don't know how, like, religious trauma functioned in your household. I imagine there's some religious trauma here tonight, even if it's not Catholicism, right? Great, yeah. Okay, well, so in my faith and my place of worship, Catholics were a little bit strict, and there was no gray area, right? There was right, and there was wrong, and then my family sprinkled in keeping your commitments, and watching Seventh Heaven every Sunday night, which absolutely made me a worse, weirder, creepier, bad person. So mistakes weren't really seen as like opportunities for growth as much as they were sins who would condemn you and your loved ones to hell. So I was like, I'm gonna step out of the game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't wanna do that entirely. But sometimes you have parts of your life where you have to make a choice, whether you want to or not. And for me, this precipice was LA housing. Yeah, I know. I call Molly all the time. I'm like, what am I doing here? And you did too. I had a bad run with LA housing, okay? And at this point in my life in LA, I was paying $1,900 a month to live with it gets worse, 5 adult roommates, okay? One of them was a literal paparazzi by trade. Somehow that job still exists. One other, was a Coke dealer and a fitness instructor whose license plate said no fatties. Like, oh my God. It was also at this point at my time in LA when my friends and family, like half this room, you guys were like, dude, Denver, Colorado, where you're from, is a lovely city. Like, people move here. Haven't you heard? They want to live here. You don't have to live like that in LA. But I was like, nay, family and friends. I have opportunities that I'm cultivating in LA. For example, I had just been cast to be a litigant on a fake court TV show. And my job, my character, was to convince the judge that yes, I should sue the owner of the Mommy and Me daycare for emotional damages because she kicked me out of class simply for breastfeeding my 6-year-old child. When the producers cast me, I was like, okay, how into this do you guys want me to get? I was like, not to brag, but like I was the captain of my high school speech and debate team, East High School, what's up? So I was like, I will do this fervently. And they were like, that's the best case scenario. They were like, we want you to get so into it. We want you to debate. Go ham. And they were like, we also think the judge is gonna vote in your favor because we're leaning towards progressive politics. I was like, 6 is old, but sure, whatever. And so they were like, go hard in the paint. And I was like, okay, we filmed the episode. The judge does not vote in my favor. I was like, if I can't breastfeed in a Mommy and Me, where can I ask you? I was taking it so seriously. I find out after filming that the judge told the producers I was going to vote in the favor of the mother, but that woman was so annoying. Her arguing and debating was so grating, I never want to see her as a cast member on my show again. So I had dreams to chase, baby. I couldn't move back to Denver. I was like, no, I can't. For women. But I knew I needed to find somewhere new to live. And I was deciding between 2 choices. One was this lovely house in Highland Park in Los Angeles, right next to Pasadena, and it was gorgeous. It had greenery, a front yard, a backyard. It had only 2 other roommates, and they were like adult women in their 40s. And then the other option was a trap house in East Hollywood with 7 adult roommates, 5 of whom were in their 20s. I wondered, and I know it seems obvious to you all here, and in hindsight to me as well, but here's the thing. The Highland Park house was more rent than I had ever paid in my life, and they also wanted me to sign a lease, and I had not signed a year-long lease in over 12 years. Because when you have, this is so nice that you're like trying to, Mackenzie's like, it's an important moment, give me Altoids. When you have commitment issues, the way that I do, you're always looking for the door, it's there. And you could run into the basement if you needed, whatever, But I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna grow into commitment phobia. I'm gonna lean into it, and I'm gonna choose the Highland Park house. So I did that, and I signed the lease, and it was scary, but I was like, okay. And then I got a call from the 20-year-olds, and they told me 2 things that changed everything for me. First, they told me that they had chosen me, and it felt really good to be picked, okay? Similar theme. It's very dangerous to be this vulnerable to flattery. And then the second thing, which really, it changed, I'm telling you, it changed everything for me. They told me that they had just gotten a trampoline. So naturally, I spiraled deeper than I had in my entire life. I didn't only regret this choice that I made, I regretted every single choice I had made in my 36 years on this planet leading up to this moment. I was convinced my worst case scenario was coming true. I made the wrong choice and I couldn't get out of it. I thought I was messed up. What started as one panic attack and one critical voice telling me, you're wrong, this is a mistake, you're a mistake. I'm the youngest of four, so it is possible. Actually, it turned into a 3-day panic attack where I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't work, I couldn't stop hyperventilating, I couldn't just reset. I was suicidal, I thought the world was ending, I thought I was the worst person in the world. And it's at this point in the story you might be like, damn, bitch, like that's crazy. Why didn't you just take some Xanax or Ativan and get like 5 hours of sleep so you could think straight? And then I would tell you, I actually didn't have any access to anti-anxiety medications. I've never talked to a doctor who told me that I had anxiety. And then you'd be like, whoa, dude, like, you should fire every doctor you've ever seen. You definitely have anxiety. That's crazy. After 3 days of unrest, I decided to call in the big guns. You know her, you love her, Mackenzie Gilchrist, best friend from growing up. You can all clap, but also you too can clap. Yeah. Altoid forgiven. And so Mackenzie knows all the ways in which I'm fucked up. She's a fantastic therapist, and she's been to rehab and recovery, so she was the person to call. And she gently but clearly told me that I was having a mental breakdown. And she was like, I think you might want to go to the ER with this panic attack. And maybe even, she said, maybe even you check yourself into the psych ward so that you can get access to anti-anxiety meds, like some Ativan. But, and this is so important, she told me, if you check into the psych ward and the first and then the next 10 things you do are ask for Ativan, that's the surest way that no one in the psych ward is gonna give you Ativan. And also, they might not let you leave. That's called foreshadowing. Put a pin in that. So I was so, oh my God, is everyone okay? Are we safe? Okay, good. I mean, I'm not, but I'm glad you are. So I was so wrecked from just days of hyperventilating and dry heaving and anxiety that I honestly didn't even have enough ego in me to feel self-conscious about this. But I still asked her through tears. I was like, you've known me my whole life. Do you really think it's that bad? Do you really think I need to go into the psych ward? And she was like, yeah, I do. And then she said, if it makes you feel better, you could also, instead of calling it the slammer and the psych ward, which you keep doing, you could just call it what it is, which is a psychiatric inpatient care program. And I was like, no, dude. She was like, I get it. It's, whatever. So my friend picks me up and takes me to Adventist Health in Glendale of Los Angeles. Don't recommend it. And the nurse and the doctor, they draw my blood and they agree 3 days is far too long for one sustained panic attack. So they take me into a room in the hospital and I have to hand over all my items. And oh my God, you guys, when that IV drip of Ativan hits, whew, I'm telling you, I get it. I get it. I was seeing meadows and mountains and rivers and roads and valleys. It was fantastic. But more importantly, I could finally drink some Pedialyte and eat some saltines and put nutrients in my body for the first time. And even more importantly, I could take in my surroundings. I was present to them, and I realized that they had put me in an adult Disney room. There were 101 Dalmatians, literally, like a Where's Waldo, just staring at me like, bitch, you're crazy. And I was like, oh my God, I know. And then my friend and I took selfies with everyone that we could find. The nurse was like, what's your deal? I don't know, So after the photo shoot with the 101 Dalmatians, the nurse comes in and tells me, she's like, look, the psychiatrist who can prescribe medication, he's left for the day because it's too late in the day. And so if you don't have a direct line to another psychiatrist and you think you need these medications to support you, what you can do is you can check into the psych ward and you can see the psychiatrist there first thing tomorrow morning. You can have a medical evaluation, you can get the meds you need, and then you can get out. Sounds simple, right? No, it doesn't. I got confused telling you that. So you can imagine what happened next. She was like, basically, you're not gonna hurt yourself right now, right? And I was like, nah, babe, I got Ativan. I'm totally chill. And she was like, oh, shit. We made an addict. She's like, okay, that's great. But if we check you out, you're at risk of hurting yourself or others so that insurance will help cover it. And I was like, oh, bet. What she said, what you said, I'll say it too. So I confer with my family and friends and my therapist, and we decide, my regular coping strategies aren't working anymore and we need to do something else. And so I decide to check in, and I give them my phone. That's the last thing I hand over. And I remember I had this crumpled piece of paper with just 7 numbers I had written down in case I needed to call them. And they wheeled me up to the 4th floor, and it was 11 p.m. at this point, so it was actually so peaceful there. And I was benzoed the fuck out, so I was like, this place is nice, They took my hair ties, they took anything that could be anything. They gave me new clothes. It was beige tops and bottoms. It's not my color, I'm very pale. And they read me my terms of stay, and boy, should I have listened, okay? But I was so fucking high, I don't remember a word of it, but that was important. So they wheel me to my room, and as I entered it, it was scary. It was clinical and sparse, but at least it was mine. I had my own room there, I remember thinking to myself. And as I crawled into bed and pulled one cardboard sheet over me, I was like, God, this is a big deal. This is scary. This is really big. But you know what? It's good I'm here. I feel safe here. I think I'm gonna get better here. I awoke at 6:30 a.m. to the most blood-curdling shriek I have heard in my entire life. A very different nurse from the matronly one who checked me in barked through the door that I have to hurry up and I cannot be late. I sit up groggily. They've given me so much medication, I don't know what's going on. And I walk into the hallway, and the scene before me is like a mashup between a zombie apocalypse and a high school passing period, where people have places to be, or at least they think they do, and they are growling to themselves along the way. I go to eat breakfast. Honestly, breakfast slaps. All the food there did. And it's the first meal I've had in 4 days. It's French toast, bacon. It was amazing. And then I turn to the nurse who's in charge of me, and I'm like, hey, I was told I could meet with the psychiatrist first thing. Is he available? And I'll never forget this dismissive tone and the look of finality on his face when he said to me, we don't coordinate with the downstairs ER. And I was like, oh, okay, but no, sorry. Maybe people say this all the time, but I had a plan. I discussed it with them, and she promised me this was the plan. I'm gonna meet with a psychiatrist, and he just said, no, we don't do that. And I learned that it was better not to fight with them, and I was told I should just cooperate. Where have I heard that before, and not ask any questions and not try to persuade them anything. So as I'm shuffled into my first group therapy session, there's a social worker, a facilitator, and he's asking everyone there, what they're doing there, how long they've been there for, and when they get out. And I don't want to share all these other people's stories in too much detail because they're not mine to share. And I don't want to make too much light of them because also I was a peer, we were in there together in the trenches. I was no better or worse than anyone. But after I've said that, I do want to just paint a little bit of a picture of one person's experience to sort of illuminate the contrast of experiences, right? So this one woman answers him and she says, bitch, I don't even know where here is. And the facilitator says, well, that's because you're still high on PCP. Do you remember last night? And she said, no, bitch, I don't. And he was like, yeah, no, I figured. And he was like, well, last night you stole a car, innocent until proven guilty. You know what I mean? We've all heard it before, okay? Stole a car, I don't know, check everything. He was like, you stole a car, you drove through a fenced facility, you drove into a building and crashed the car, and then when the cops came, you fell out of the car and you punched one of the cops in the face. I'm laughing that she punched a cop, not at the other stuff. So that's her story. That's her experience, right? And she shares all that, and then he gets to me and he's like, and you? And I'm like, oh my God, I have to follow that? So I'm like, well, okay, I can do it. I was like, yeah, I signed a lease and then there was a trampoline, you know? And I had a panic attack. And he was like, that's it? That's all? And I was like, I mean, yeah. And I could tell he wanted trauma from me, like capital T trauma, you know? He was goading me. He was looking for nuggets. And so I tried to dig deep. I was like, okay, let's see. I was like, yeah, my parents were kind of strict growing up, like the Catholic thing. That was like, I didn't see mistakes as opportunities for growth as much as I saw them as fatalities, you know? I was like, I am the youngest child, definitely the dumbest. I got scammed for $500. Like, you should have seen it. It was like crazy. And he was like, enough, shut up. This is like the 50th man in my life who's been like, yeah, you've exhausted me. Stop talking. And this man, this therapist at one of the most esteemed psych wards in all of Los Angeles says, that's not that bad. You just need to give it up and pray to God. I was like, okay. First of all, when I get out of here, I am reporting you to the medical board. That is fucking crazy. You told me to pray to God. I also just told you God is part of the problem. What? Second of all, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. My brother in Christ, I agree with you. And I implore you to join me in my side and my fight to see the psychiatrist and get meds and get the fuck out of here. But he wasn't having it. Nobody was. And when I walked out of that group therapy into the hall and looked around, I started to realize I don't think the upstairs psych ward is coordinating at all with the downstairs ER. I was like, fuck. And like there were patients on that floor that were going through stuff. I mean, you heard the PCP, you know? And I was told that my floor wasn't even the most violent one or the most acute one. It was the 5th floor where the real shit was going down. The real banging on the windows and the doors, the schizophrenic cries out for help. The psychiatrist did not have time to see a millennial with lease regret. So, as I start to realize my life is becoming an IRL version of the movie Girl Interrupted, this feeling returns. It's familiar and it's bubbling, and my heart starts to race, and I can't catch a breath. And I realized, fuck, I'm having another panic attack. But this time, unlike when I signed the lease and learned about the trampoline, I might actually be in physical or psychological danger. I run back to my room past the screaming cries from the dormitories and people in their bunk beds, and I just think if I can get inside my room, I can think my way through this. I'll be okay. I just have to be there alone. I'll figure this out. And when I open the door, I see that there is a 70-year-old man in my bed, and he's clutching my pillow as if it were his own. His name was Larry, and he meant no harm, but like I was, you know, you can imagine I was a little spooked. As this was happening, I learned from the nurses that my family and friends were tying up the phone lines because they were calling to check in on me. And the nurses were starting to resent that. And I'm so sorry, I'm popular, it's literally all I have. And so, one of the nurses in charge of me, because they rotated like every 6 hours, I had to keep making my case every 6 hours. I was like, you can breastfeed 6-year-olds, it's fine, you know, whatever. One of the nurses told me, they're like, stop arguing with everyone. He told me that if I keep taking calls on the outside, I'm not going to really heal on the inside. And I was like, okay, I hear you, but I actually will come back and tell you that I don't find this very healing, and I'm worried it's making me a lot worse. For example, I definitely am addicted to Ativan already. And so, but he, you know, he's not having it. And it's hard to describe my experiences in there linearly because I was stony jabloni, you know, and because also so much happened. So I'll just share some things I do remember. I remember a lot of puzzles, and not the cool Trinity wooden, not those kind of puzzles, you know. These had vomit on them. I remember hula hooping outdoors. That was like a really big part of the physical activity. I remember the patients I should avoid eye contact with, or they saw the devil in me, and I was like, I see it too. I don't know. Let's see what else. Oh, I remember when we had art therapy, the musician came and asked what song she could play, and everyone fought, the men and the women fought about what song we wanted to hear, and collectively, everybody in the psych ward decided that we wanted to hear the Twilight soundtrack, the esteemed vampire romance novel, for those of you, series actually, for those of you who aren't familiar. So I'm like holding hands with all these people swaying, we're like, I would die 1,000 years waiting for, and like, I gotta tell you, that was very healing. Like, it absolutely was a highlight. And I just have to observe, there is a demographic split, and I love how many of my mom's bridge friends came to this event. It is stunning. And I also love the millennials who were Twilight girlies. Thank you. Thank you. So that was another part of it. I remember the social worker who was in charge of my discharge paperwork. When he heard my name, Michelle Murphy, he said, well, you know, that sounds like a name for fame. Have you ever considered performing in Hollywood? And I was like, oh, buddy. I was like, yeah, no, I have, actually. I'm a stand-up comedian. And then he said, oh, have you heard of Joe Rogan? That guy's pretty funny. Darkest part of the whole psych ward, honestly, for me. I remember the nurse practitioner was sent on behalf of the psychiatrist to do my medical evaluation, and we met, and he agreed it wasn't like really for the best for me to be there, and that I should be let go and get some anti-anxiety medication. But I also remember he filed the paperwork too late, and I was fated to spend another day and a half in the psych ward. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. And I remember every time they gave me a meal form for the following day. Oh my God, also the tapioca pudding was like also a highlight. I would like store it in my room, and they were like, you're paying a lot to be here, you don't need to like hide that. And I am, because like United Healthcare still hasn't, like, what's up, Luigi, you know? And so like, whatever, the food was great, but every time they gave me a meal form to fill out, I was like, I'm not gonna fill this out because I'm not supposed to be here tomorrow. I'm actually not supposed to be here at all. I just wanted some Ativan. But that wasn't entirely true, because as much as I wanted to leave, I also realized I was in a place where I couldn't be in charge of my own life. I needed somebody else to take the wheel, and not Jesus. He had not been doing a sufficient job so far. I needed somebody else to tell me what to eat and put it right in front of me. I needed somebody else to tell me what to wear and put that right in front of me, and when to go to sleep, and to just handle all of my human needs so that I could just sit for a moment and not just hate myself. And it turns out I wasn't alone, because on my second to last day there was a new patient coming in, and he was talking to the nurse at the check-in station, and he was like, sorry, I don't know if this is right for me. My job just got to be so much, but I don't know if this is a good fit. I probably shouldn't be here. I just had a panic attack. And the nurse told him, look, man, like, we see all sorts of people in here. Yes, some people are hallucinating, but also we see high-functioning doctors and lawyers and stay-at-home parents who everything just got to be too much, and they needed to come in and they needed to have a reset. The newbie seemed somewhat satisfied by that information, and he went off to check out his new dormitory. And I sat next to the nurse, and I thanked him, and I was like, you know, I think I'm actually one of those people. I'm just in here for a panic attack, and I even work in mental health. And he said, oh yeah, where do you work? And I told him the name of the company that I worked at. And he said, oh, I've been trying to get a job there. And I was like, oh, well, did you email this person? Because that's who you really want to reach. And then when you're drafting your resume, like, you should really say all these things. And I'm giving him all this advice. So I'm a psych patient in the psych ward who's mentoring my handler in career advice. And he's like, shit, thank you. That is so helpful. I really appreciate that, because I really want to work in mental health. And I'm like, yeah, we're in a psych ward, and you're like in charge of me. What? Like, are you I thought we were already there, man. Like, what the fuck? And he was like, I've actually been trying to increase my hours and volunteer, so I've been volunteering for this organization. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Crisis Text Line. The very same organization where I abandoned my post at to solve a CIA murder. also the very same organization that I worked at for nearly 4 years, the very same organization that I helped design the training that all volunteers take, that he was taking. And the very same organization where we discovered that our CEO was a crazy fucking racist bitch. And she was taking suicidal people's data and she was selling it to make a for-profit that coached people in how to talk with a customer service tone. Never forget, the very same organization that when me and some coworkers organized a walkout to expose that, we were retaliated and they fired us. The very same organization that when they did fire me, I was like, all right, I guess I'll move to LA now. So it kind of felt fated to be here in this psych ward, counseling my psych ward handler about how to navigate the trials and tribulations of Crisis fucking text line. We ended up talking for 45 minutes. I actually really enjoyed this full circle moment, and we really bonded and connected, and then, I went on my way, and I saw later that he was the nurse who was in charge of like the shower lines, and I was really grateful because I was like, here's somebody who sees me as a person, not just like a crazy ass patient, you know? Here's somebody who not only is humanizing me, but he actually views me as a mentor, even an authority figure in the field that he's trying to work in. So you can imagine my surprise when this little guy, this man, shouted at me, "Murphy, get in fucking line for the showers, you're late." And I was like, you're trying to Stanford prison experiment me. Okay. And so as I shower in the nastiest fucking shower that I have been in my entire life, there is hair everywhere. It's on me, it's not mine, it's everywhere. This feeling, this long forgotten feeling starts to come back. It starts to return to me. And it's bubbling, and it's righteous, and it's right there, and I realize what it is anger. But for the first time, it's not just anger at myself for my decision-making, it's anger at the systems that put me there. It's anger at the mental health care system, which is also a carceral system. It's anger at insurance. United Healthcare has not paid my bills back. It's anger at housing costs and LA housing. It should not have sent me into the psych ward that I had to spend that much. I was angry at the man, I was angry at the system, and I finally decided, you know what, fuck it. I'm ready to decide what I want to eat. I do hope someone else makes me that tapioca pudding, but I'm ready. I'm ready to determine when I go to sleep. I'm ready to determine what happens next in my life. I want to be the captain of my own ship. So, absolutely dripping wet, I march myself to the nurse's station. Well, it's not, no. I'm building to a crescendo, remember? Oh my God, but thank you. You're ready, I appreciate that. I march up to the nurse's station, I say, listen, I know you've been screening about 1/3 of my calls. Sorry, I'm fucking popular. I also know that one of your therapists has been touting Jesus Christ as a serious mental health solution. And I know that I think about Jesus all the time, and I think about pegging him, but that's not for you to concern yourself with, okay? I know that the nurse practitioner fucked up my discharge paperwork and I should have already been gone. I know that we all know I shouldn't be here anymore, so you're gonna take my name, you're gonna run it up the ladder, and tomorrow morning, you're gonna discharge me after I have had my tapioca pudding, because that shit slaps, and after I have moved out, because I am ready to sign a lease on a house, even if it doesn't have a trampoline. Thank you. Okay. Mom, how are you doing? Are you good? Okay. Flo, how are you doing? Okay, all right. Jeannie, are you okay? Okay, I'm asking because it's going to get worse, so that's why I'm checking. Oh. All right, this is the last story. Anybody have anything else they want to work out up here, actually? It doesn't, I feel ready to hand it over. Oh, God, okay. So you might have noticed that I have a complicated relationship with authority. You know the game Fuck, Marry, Kill, where you're given names and you have to choose? You're like, who would I fuck, marry, and kill? Okay, that's how I feel about authority figures, but it's all three. I want to fuck them, marry them, and kill them, and be them. I want to be them as well, you know? And especially an authority figure who says that they have a direct line to a higher power. They're like, I know these wisdoms from beyond and from God. Immediately, I want to fight that person. I want to kill. I'm like, what's up, Catholic Archdiocese? What's with all the pedophiles? Fuck you, you know? And so that's when it turns to kill in the game Fuck, Marry, Kill. Because what happens for me is I'm primed to see that. I'm always looking for that. I'm always looking for that charismatic leader. But I'm also stupid, as we've discussed from the first story and the second, honestly. And I'm a seeker, you know, I'm looking for leaders with good ideas, and I enjoy nudity and psychedelics. And unfortunately, the Venn diagram of all of those attributes, thank you, and cults, it's uncomfortably close. So what I have to do in my personal life is I have to train myself to ask myself, is this a cult, you know? Because what happens, and I say happens plural, because it has happened plural, is that I'll find myself in a situation, you know, because it started with a groovy idea and a good time and excellent acid, right? And then the inner Catholic in me is kind of triggered and activated, and I'm like, why are they asking us for so much money? You know, like, what's that about? And then I'm like, oh, this is a cult. We have to get out. I have to get out. And so then I leave and I try to take people with me. I'm like, it's a cult. We got to go. Actually, my brother and I had a similar situation at Burning Man one time where we were accidentally in a cult. But Chris decided to just bike away from the tent. Meanwhile, a woman was literally painting an Easter egg on my chest, telling me about the demons of the Lord and how I deserve a prince. And Chris was like, she'll catch up. It's fine. So we know, you know, we're like, is this a cult? So, and this story takes place in San Francisco, which is just a seething hotbed of cult activity, you know? You had Jim Jones doing his pre-Kool-Aid days there and everything. You have Burning Man, which I apologize. I seriously apologize. I go, I feel bad about it. And then, oh my God, here's, this other one that they also had in New York and LA before they shut it down. It's called One Taste. Okay, you don't know yet what it is. You're gonna be so fucking grossed out. So One Taste, oh God, this is awkward. Okay, so basically what it is it's this cult that practices a technique called orgasmic meditation. And what that is where you finger bang each other in front of them. And they charge you to do it. And here I am thinking you can finger bang each other for free. Like, I don't know, you know. So that's disgusting. We can all agree, okay? Enough about that. So I'm working for that pesky little crisis line at the time, crisis text line, and our CEO is like, hey, one of my mentees is leading a mental health summit up north. So I want you and your coworker to go represent us and share some data about suicide prevention. And I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, have a good time. It's in the Redwoods. It'll be lovely. And all that we knew about the woman who was leading this mental health summit was that she was in her 20s and she worked for YouTube. That we were like, okay, credentials, check, I guess. We're not worried about it. So I get picked up with my coworker, Robbie, that's a pseudonym she'll appreciate, in the Castro neighborhood, and this guy, Joe, is friends with Brittany, the woman leading the mental health summit. And we wind our way through the NorCal hills, it's beautiful, through the Redwoods, and we arrive at just this like gorgeous property, it's so lush and it's massive and it's this amazing land that has a sign hanging on it that says it's called The Land. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little on the nose. And as we drive in, these people thrust mocktails through the car windows at us, and they're like, these are made from mulberries that we crushed from our garden and sweetened with honey from our honeybees. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Okay. And I'm drinking it down like I'm in Bridesmaids. It's the lemonade. I want it, you know? And then they bring me to my cabin, which is called the Hummingbird Suite, and it's like the crispest sheets are laid out, and these wildflowers and lavender have been picked and gingerly placed atop my pillow. And you have to understand, working in mental health, you're like, what? We can't afford this. We can't afford nice things. Like something's going on here, you know? And so that little voice is like, is this a cult? And I'm like, nah, I don't want to hear it, you know? Like, I don't want to talk about it. This is really nice. And also, to be honest, my life in San Francisco kind of sucked at the time. I had mold in my apartment. I had just gone through another heartbreak dating one of my brother's friends. Thank you, and I'm sorry, you know? And so I was like, it's not a cult. Even if it is, it's fine. Everything's fine, right? And so I go to the Friday gathering where we're meeting everybody who's participating in the summit for the weekend. And it's a real cast of characters. You've got some legitimate people. There's a Berkeley psychology professor and his 2 TAs. There's a guy from the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Acts. There's a guy named Steve who was just walking his dog up a dirt road, and then we intercepted him, and he joined us for the weekend and is paying God knows how much. And then there was this one woman in her 50s, early 60s, who I'm ashamed to admit I was pretty drawn to because she was wearing a fringe coat and Tevas, and I was like, what's up, And she told, also everybody at this mental health summit is white. And so she told me that her name was Mama Junebug. I'm just giving you information. That's all I'm doing. You can do with that what you want to do with that, right? Mama Junebug. And we're hitting it off, again, embarrassed, but we are hitting it off. And she was like, I really like your vibe. I want to let you know that in 6 months' time, I'm going to have this women's workshop on the East Coast. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, what do you all do there? And she was like, well, it's a women's workshop. And I was like, yeah, no, and I'm a woman, I think, and we covered that. And what will happen to me there? And she takes my hand, and she says, it's for women. And I was like, all right. And this little voice that's always looking for a cult is like, whoa, bitch, that's vague as hell, okay? Vague as hell, we don't know what's going on. She probably charges $10K for that. I don't like it. She's a cult leader, move on. And I'm like, no. And even so, there's a goat farm, And I can just be chill this weekend. I'll see whatever Mama Junebug is about, it's fine. So I return to whatever the rest of the mental health summit is. And the next morning we have our first actual mental health activity, which is this woman who is describing witnessing a very graphic suicide. And I would never tell you guys the details of that because it would be so irresponsible to describe witnessing a really graphic suicide. And I start to realize and wonder if there are any legitimately licensed clinical mental health professionals at this summit. I'm like, I don't know if anybody here is qualified. And so as the credentials of the mental health summit start to spiral, the land that we're on and the people who work there start getting curiouser and curiouser. I'm talking to one guy the next day who works there at lunch, and I was like, this place is beautiful, I have to tell you. It is so gorgeous. Thank you so much for having us. Is that your business? That's what you do. It's event, you host people for events and everything, and you rent it out to them. And he goes, events? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, no. Gatherings. And I was trying to do the math in my head. I was trying to beautiful mind it. I was like, dot the I, cross the T. I think they're synonymous. Events, okay, whatever. And then I realized, oh, my mistake. I had used really corporate lingo. I had said business, event space, rentals. But this guy and this place, they were about it, They had the funding and they just wanted to give freely. They could dig it. And so I was like, oh, sorry, that's so fucking cool that you let people gather here. That's amazing that you offer, you take organizations you believe in and you do pay what you can. And he goes, what's pay what you can? And I was like, it's in the definition of every word that it is. I was like, my guy, on the count of 3, how about you tell me what you think events means and I'll tell you what pay what you can means. The fuck? And the voice is back, and it's ooh, buzzy buzzwords. That's a problem. This is a cult. And I'm like, buzz off, bitch. I don't want to hear it. And then I look and I see that the next part of the itinerary is a workshop hosted by Mama Junebug. And it's called Workshop Ceremony. And anything can happen to you at a ceremony. So I'm a little worried. I make my way down to the garden. I am required to wind through a meditation circle to get there. And when I walk into the garden, honestly, it's beautiful. There's blankets strewn about. There's so many gorgeous flowers. The colors are popping. And Mama Junebug is standing there, and she's smiling at us all blissfully. And as we take our seats, Brittany, who's leading the Mental Health Summit, she stands up and gets on the microphone, and she says, I'm so grateful you're all here. This means so much to me. The whole reason we're here today is because Mama Junebug is connected to the land, and she invited us to be here. And this workshop that she's about to give us is really the culmination of everything we're trying to do in the mental health field. And I was like, okay, I mean, I didn't give her enough credit. Like, that's wild. Everything that we're trying to do, all the access to resources that we are trying to do, all the destigmatization, all the increased access to care in the mental health field, I am about to hear the culmination of those efforts. Amazing. So I was just like a little confused when Mama Junebug welcomed us to using the divine feminine to find your female pleasure. And I thought, wow, what an ambitious and frankly unconventional way to do that, but okay. You know, also keep in mind, this is a professional mental health summit. There are coworkers here with you. I'm with my coworker, you know, but it's not my job to tell Mama Junebug that's fucking weird, you know? And also, here's the thing. I believe in the divine feminine, you know? And I do think we need to focus more on female pleasure. So I was like, I can get down with it. I'm gonna be open-minded, all right? And Mama Junebug starts, she says, ugh, we abuse Mother Earth, we don't listen to her. And I'm like, that's right, we do, you know? She's like, we don't focus on women and their pleasure. I'm like, no, we don't. She's like, we never just take the time to feel the breeze on our face. Let's do it now. I'm like, oh, this feels so good. Let's do it now. She's like, we never take time to just feel the earth beneath our feet. Let's do it now. I'm like, oh, I never do that for myself. Let's do it now. She's like, we never just dance freely. Let's do it now. All the women stand up. All the men sit down and close your eyes. What? Why did it change? What in the Midsommar is happening? Okay, why did we separate into genders or assume gender? Like, what the fuck? Oh, no. I don't know. And here's the thing. Here's one of the things about me. You've heard a lot already, but here's a really important one. I love to dance, okay? I might not look like it, but I like to freak a little fucking leak, right? Yeah, I like to dance a lot. Grind it on some of you here, okay? But not if you tell me to, okay? I don't like to dance if you tell me to, and I like to feel free. I like that a lot. Not if you tell me to feel free, then I don't fucking feel free, okay? There's a prompt. It's like one thing kind of negates the other. So I'm like, oh, I don't like it. But she cues the music. She's like, sitar man, you know, it's some new agey shit. I don't fucking know. The sitar's a lovely instrument. I am sorry, but it's been weaponized. And so the music starts, and the women around me are trying to get into it. They're swirling and twirling, and they're undulating. And here's the other thing about me and dancing. When I do dance, I'm not going to describe it because my parents have been through enough tonight, but it is visceral, and it is holistic, and it's committed, okay? And when I don't dance, I'm like a green bean. I'm just like the whitest Irish person you've ever seen, and I'm just swaying there like a vegetable. It's rough. So the women are twirling and swirling, and I'm green beaning it pretty fucking hard. And then she's like, okay, now we can stop. I'm like, oh, thank fucking God, I hated that. I hated every minute of it. And she's like, okay, amazing. Now the next thing that I want us to do is I want the women to stay standing. I want them to dance. And now men, I want you to open your eyes, and I want you to behold their feminine glory and pleasure. Again, Berkeley professor with his two younger TAs, okay? And I'm like, oh, God, I really don't want to do that. And she goes, unless one of you here doesn't feel safe and empowered to do it, unless that's the case, then we won't do it at all. So basically, oust yourself as a wet fucking blanket, okay? I'm like, oh, my God. And then without even giving us a moment to think about it, she cues the sitar man again. And so he starts playing them, you know, the music, and the men are like, oh, and the women are dancing. And I should also probably tell you that this is the Saturday after the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, where women in our country and most countries realized something that we always knew to be true, which is that men feel that our bodies are theirs to do with whatever they want. And after weeks of that trauma and those hearings and learning about so many people's sexual assault stories, I did not want the male gaze on me. I didn't want any gaze on me. I didn't even want to be a body in this world. I just wanted to be missed, you know? And so people are going through the motions, doing this creepy frickin' activity. And I'm so upset as it's happening, and my butt was clenched tight. I've never green beaned harder in my life. And so we wrap it up. She's like, cut the music. I'm like, thank fucking God. The discomfort in the garden is palpable. And she asks everyone, I want you to share your learnings and your perspective from this workshop. And the men, okay, to their credit, the bar's so low, but to their credit, they were like Neo in the Matrix dodging bullets. They were like, you looked empowered. They were like, I liked the snapping choice you made. Like, they're doing anything they can to avoid the words like pleasure, beauty. They're just like, oh God. And that voice is back in me. It's like, this was fucked up. And I'm like, I know, but I don't want her to be mad at me. I don't want to get in trouble, and I feel disgusting about it, but I don't want to. And that voice is like, say something. I'm like, no. It's like, say something, no. Say something, no. Say something, no. And I realize my hand is raised, and she says, yes, Michelle, what did this teach you about your female pleasure? And I was like, well, Mama Junebug, I gotta say, I actually think it was my female conditioning that made me not want to make anyone uncomfortable by saying this is the weirdest, grossest fucking activity in the world. There's a Berkeley TA and professor here, for God's sakes. The Kavanaugh hearing was last week. It is so unsafe and irresponsible to do this after that. I feel gross. I feel creepy. These men are fine and nice, but I don't want them looking at me. Nobody wants them looking at me. If anything, all I learned about female existence is like our subjugation. And I take a collective sigh, and the whole garden, which has been holding its breath, everybody, the people, the birds, the bees, the trees, they all let a sigh out. And one by one, the women around me start crying. And one by one, they start saying the words, "Me too," the literal campaign slogan. So Mama June has lost the room. And she can tell, and she's not comfortable with that. And she's such a manipulative, that she tries to take credit for this moment. She says, and isn't it wonderful? Isn't it so good that through my workshop, you learned to express your desires now in the moment instead of later? You chased your female pleasure. And I was like, whoa, you don't know the asylum that raised me, okay? I was like, the reason we're fighting right now, Mama Junebug, isn't your workshop. It's because of Susan Murphy. What's up, Mom? God bless. And the Catholic Church, okay? Don't try to take credit for us getting in this fight right now. So, also, I just messed up our own last name. I said Murphy. You guys were going to let me get away with that? Oh, my God. You're too supportive of a crowd. It's Murphy. So, I say that. Everybody is leaving the workshop now. We feel fucking terrible, all of us. And these women are coming up to me, and they start telling me their stories of sexual assault. And I'm glad they feel like they can share that with somebody, but I'm not qualified to do that and to decompress with 7 different people. And I was on my work vacation, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, oh my God. And the rest of the weekend, Mama Junebug is watching me like a freaking hawk. She has her eyes on me, and I'm spooked. And she comes up to me, she tells me, I really have my finger on the pulse, and I'm a real culture carrier. So you guys better know that about me. And she asks for my number. I give it to her just because I don't want any trouble here, man. I'm like, oh God, whatever. And then on the final day, the final morning of the retreat, we're all 27 white people are holding hands, thanking Spirit for hosting us. Okay? And then it's time to go. And I get in Joe's car with my coworker, Robbie, and I'm like, whoa. I don't know about you guys, but that was fucking weird. I don't know what happened this weekend, but something. And Joe is like, I agree. I mean, Brittany is my friend, but I don't know what the fuck all of that was. It kind of felt like a cult. And I was like, exactly, but I always think that about places, so I didn't know if I was being overly paranoid. And then Robbie, my coworker, who had been quiet the entire weekend, says, well, it probably felt like a cult because it is a cult. It actually, the land that we're on, it's the headquarters for this cult called One Taste. It's a finger-banging cult that teaches a practice called orgasmic meditation. My sister fell financial ruin to them. She was forced to marry somebody inside the cult. We haven't seen her in years. She's not in the family anymore. And we were like, what the fuck? didn't think it was the finger blasting cult from the Bay, but I knew something was off. And also we were like, Robbie, that's pertinent information entering the weekend, not leaving the weekend. Jesus Christ, pedal to the metal, Joe. So Joe puts on the fucking gas because we're like, we gotta get out of here. And we are driving away so fast, and I'm so mad at Robbie for not sharing that information earlier. And the next morning, I log in to our all-staff meeting with 150 people who are tuning in over Zoom with Robbie by my side, and our CEO says, Michelle, what were your findings this weekend? Please share them. And I was like, well, it was a cult. It was a finger-banging cult. That's what we found out. And they were like, what the mute her now. Happens all the time. Whoa. And I still think about Mama Junebug a lot. I do. And I know that she would want me to dance like nobody's watching, but I would just like to finger bang like nobody's charging me for it. But the most important part about what Mama Junebug has taught me is really to trust your instincts. Because if it looks like a cult and it sounds like a cult, it is probably a cult. I love you guys. Thank you so much. You have been an amazing audience. You have endured everything. Okay, Flo. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Drink some wine. Hug your neighbors. Don't give anybody your social security number. You didn't do the crime. Thank you guys. I love you. All right.